welcome everybody to our Construction Trades Convention featuring Women at Work. This is going to be an annual event really focusing on the construction trades, bringing awareness for all the different opportunities that are in this field. So the event today is hosted and sponsored by the Rockford Housing Authority and Project First Rate. Our Paul from Project First Rate is here with us today as well, helping me host this awesome event. And we're just really excited to have you guys. One of the things that for us at the Housing Authority, doing some research and some past events that we've had, is we realize that a majority of our audience as a housing authority are women. A fun statistic for you is that over 74% of public housing households have a female as the head of the home. And as the Section 3 manager here, I realized I had to kind of change my focus a little bit with my target audience. There was a huge part of my audience are women. And so I wanted to start creating some events and awareness for the different opportunities out there. And one of those are with the construction trades. So we've partnered with Paul over at Project First Rate to host this event. And we have a really fantastic group of panelists today that's going to be sharing all their industry knowledge with us. I'll hand it over to you, Paul.
Great. Well, thank you, Michaela, and thank you to the Rockford Housing Authority and all the work that's went into this. And thank you, of course, to all of our panelists. Before we jump into them, just want to thank them again, before we get started, for agreeing to be part of this. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion. So just real quickly, for people who aren't familiar with Project First Rate, we are a nonprofit labor management organization. We cover about 8 counties in Northern Illinois. So we represent our union trades and our union contractors. And in my role, I get to work on all types of things related to career education and promotion. And so that's how this kind of conversation with Michaela and the Housing Authority team got started. And one of, as we go out and promote careers in the trades, one thing that we definitely want to emphasize and help open the door to are communities of color, women, people who are underrepresented in the industry. And so this is just one kind of project or program to help encourage people to get into the industry, realize there's a place for them, even if the statistics, are still showing that there's progress that needs to be made. So again, thanks to everyone for joining. Thanks to all the attendees for jumping on and listening. And we hope you enjoy the discussion, learn some things, and ask some questions along the way. And just as a reminder, make sure you ask those questions in the chat, and we'll grab those as we go along and throw them in at the end at the Q&A. Also, if you want to save them for the end, that's fine too. So yeah, I think we can go ahead, and I think we're going to begin by just talking really about some statistics in the industry as it relates to women in the field. We just thought it would be give a little bit of context to where we are today. These are all going to be nationally based rather than just local to Winnebago County or our region, but I think it illuminates some of the work that we have to go. So you guys can see the statistics that are up there. So when about 10% of the overall workforce within the entire industry, so that's going to be union and non-union, but only about 10% of those are actually women. And then you look, kind of even further, and it's only about 3% are actually out in the field in their specific trades. So we've got a lot of progress to make. I know that, I can speak for all of our members in Project First Rate. We represent 11 trades and 6 contractor associations. Each and every one of them are dedicated to making change, making progress, making sure that women understand that they're welcome. We encourage them, and we need them to join this industry, join the trades, and really enhance and bring new ideas, new perspective, and talent to the field. So there's a lot of opportunity just because, the statistics we have today, while it's, we have progress, as I said, to make, It also means there's a lot of opportunity for women to get involved and really take on leadership roles. I think whether it's going to be in the trades or on the contractor, on the business owner side of things. And that's why we invited the people who are your panelists today, because these are all leaders in their own right and all have their own unique perspective, experience, and story, et cetera, to tell. And so I think that's going to be really interesting and helpful probably to anyone who's on the call, the webinar today, who's thinking about it, who wants to get involved, who's maybe already in the process of completing an application for an apprenticeship program or thinking about business plans or whatever that may be. So if we can go to the next slide. So one thing that is a really good news about the industry, despite the kind of low percentage of women who actually are on the workforce, is that essentially the data shows that there is very little to almost no gender pay gap in the construction industry. Whereas, as you see at that the top figure there, with the economy as a whole, that's not the case. And so that just shows, I think that speaks to the power of the union trades and the union industry across the nation, that the kind of values that they represent, that they bring with them every day, that they're organized around, the way that the wages are structured and so forth. And I also thought it would be interesting to just look at another field and kind of say, like, how does that compare? So I just looked up some data about the financial sector, so banking and finance and all that kind of good stuff. And so it's almost a reverse, whereas in the industry, about 56% of the workers in finance are women, but there is a gender gap, pay gap of about 30%. So you can kind of see the difference there. So progress to be made on both kind of the number of people in the workforce on one side, but also when you look at that gender pay gap, we're doing real well there. So go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Michaela. And then looking at the business side of it, so contracting businesses. So about 13% of all construction firms are owned by women. So that's about 1 in 8, roughly, businesses in the industry are owned by women. And when I went and looked at all businesses in America, it's about 1 in 5, so about 20%. So you see there's this discrepancy there. It's still a little male dominated as compared to the average. And then of course, when looking at the general population, right, women are 50% of the population roughly. So there's progress to make on the whole, and certainly progress to make in our industry as well. And again, we have some great speakers who have operated businesses for a long time. We'll have some good advice, stories, things to share for anyone who may be interested in not only starting a contracting business in this field, but probably just insights and advice to just anyone who's looking to become an entrepreneur as well. So I think that'll be a great conversation. And yeah, so just a little bit of data before we get rolling. And let's see, just before I want to make sure John's on here. There we go. John, if you can hear me, you should be promoted. So there we go. I think we can go ahead and get rolling with the first group of panelists, which is going to be our apprenticeship readiness programs. Hey, John. Thanks for joining. All right, everyone. So I want to we're going to begin with a really great program that I have the privilege of serving on the advisory council for. I've been involved with a couple of their interviews for their participants. So I think this is going to be some really great information for anyone who maybe is not quite ready to apply for an apprenticeship program, maybe wants a little bit of training and resources to be more competitive as they apply. So go ahead and introduce Dawson Ingram. He is well, actually, I'll go ahead and just introduce, he's with the Rock Valley College Highway Construction Careers Training Program. And I'll just have some questions for him. And then before actually I get started with Dawson, for the other panelists who aren't talking right now, can you just, for one, mute yourselves and just mute your video as well until your turn to kind of have a discussion with us, and then we'll remind you. Thank you, guys. So Dawson, so before I'm not going to introduce you, I'll ask yourself actually to do that. So why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit, just introduce yourself, give us your title, describe your program, your relation to Rock Valley College, and kind of what you do within your program.
Sure. Great to be here, by the way. Thank you for inviting me. Happy to serve on the panel. So everyone can call me Dawson. I have worked at Rock Valley College for almost 5 years, and as the coordinator for the Highway Construction Careers Training Program, which is quite a mouthful, so we tend to shorten that to HCCTP, for nearly 4 years. So that first year, I was a career planner helping folks figure out job searching and training options through the WIOA grant. When I heard of the vacancy for the HCCTP coordinator position, realized I could still fulfill, passion to help people in our area find a career pathway that gives as much as they do, but with the direct result being a placement in construction. The HCCTP had been at RVC for 7 years leading up to me starting as coordinator. I knew it'd be hard work. The program was kind of in a stalled position at that time. But I knew that it could pay off for the program, the participants, our trades, our local community. So up for that challenge, I still am. I manage every facet of the HCCTP at RVC. So I really do feel like I was meant for this role. I pretty much live and breathe advocating on behalf of career opportunities in the trades. And through our area's union apprenticeship programs, it's a professional passion of mine, as well as completely personal. I have seen what this career can do for someone, for families, for my family. So it's the real deal, and I'm happy to talk about it today.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us. And can you just kind of go into a little bit of detail about HCCTP? Just describe some of the goals, main goal, multiple goals. Who are the target clients or applicants? Maybe just describe a little bit of how the schedule, the flow of the program, just a little bit more about the program.
Sure. So HCCTP was created by the Illinois Department of Transportation, and it's currently offered at 10 community colleges in the state of Illinois. It's all based on the goal to increase the skills, the abilities, the options of folks who have been largely and historically underrepresented in the construction industry. So we advocate heavily on highway work, considering our name and our sponsor being IDOT. But I designed the program to meet the demands of our region. So we work and emphasize on behalf of the building trades as well. With 17 different trade unions in our Northwestern Illinois area, HCCTP students through 14 weeks, 450 hours of readiness curriculum are able to sample each trade and learn more if it is for them or not. So think of it as a buffet. You can kind of figure out what they like. IDOT funds all of it, including the tuition of students. So this is a 100% free program. I even purchase classroom supplies, PPE, and students earn their tools, a bucket of tools. I think the value at this last class was about $400 worth of hand tools that they earn through the program. Additionally, we offer a $10 an hour stipend that is administered throughout the class weekly so that my students can focus on committing not only to the program, but the transition it takes going from one industry perhaps into construction. A lot of students still have to keep a night job or a weekend job or something to continue paying the bills, but that is something that helps them throughout their 14 weeks here. And then anyone interested can sign up for a mandatory information session via our webpage. Spring 2022 registration is open. I select my classes to ensure that we are training those who are ready to jump in with both feet. Requirements would be math grade level of at least the 7th grade, interview with a panel of my partners, and passing a direct screen. We have 2 classes a year. So fall is in session now and spring is coming up.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So can you go into a little bit more detail as far as like, what are some of the core skills, whether that's, soft skills, trade skills, math, whatever it may be, that you focus on in the program? And do you have any example or stories of, a particular participant who you saw really developed a skill that led to, some greater outcome, a career, whatever it may be?
Sure. So that 450 hours of readiness training includes math, since this is a subject very near and dear to nearly every trade in some capacity or another. So we spend the first month learning or perhaps relearning a chapter a day from our textbook. We tackle safety, that includes certifications in my students' pockets so that they are able to earn more points on apprenticeship applications or even acquire jobs related to a trade of interest. They want to be an operator, they get lift certification and they can go operate a forklift and earn a little bit of skill towards that overall career goal and earn money while they do it. So lastly, we do hands-on field work. So either on campus, in-house, or by partnering with our local training centers for students to learn from the pros. partnering with our union training centers and the coordinators that work there, the BAs as well, has been incredibly valuable for students to be able to be in the context of where an apprenticeship would take them, and see how that trade functions. And a great success story, probably an individual from my last class. So spring 2021, he spent most of his adult life justice involved and came into HCCTP hell bent on not being an example of recidivism. He had never had, high school math class, started at 7th grade level, math level, which is my minimum. So think pre-algebra. He ended with an 11th grade level after doing every assignment multiple times, asking great questions, and pretty much coming in every day with a positive attitude. He was placed almost immediately after he graduated, using math every day on the job now. So we are about meeting folks at where they are, giving them tools to succeed, boosting confidence or even experience. And they might not have had none, any before, but they will definitely after HCCTP.
That's awesome. And that's got to be really cool to kind of see those things work out and people get those opportunities and build a life from that, especially, with that story.
The best part of my job.
That's awesome. So obviously we're here to focus on encouraging women to get into the trades or the business side and contractors as well. So can you just talk a little bit about your role, your program's role in encouraging women to get into the trades and how you do that work particularly?
Yeah, so increasing female participation and placement is my number one goal as coordinator now, and it has been since I started. I would love to have a sole, 100% female class. It has not happened yet, but we have 78% graduate placement, but only 8% of that, those placed are women. And even that success is coming from women who do not have dependents, right? So the gap is highlighting that mothers are having a hard time breaking into the industry. And nearly all women who have participated in my classes in HCCTP have been single mothers. So even less support when it comes to juggling all the household responsibilities. So childcare options in the time of COVID, especially have been, even more stunted. But how to tackle some of the unique barriers to employment women and primarily single parents face in the industry is something that I'm eagerly waiting to discuss with my advisory board in the months to come. And I would hope that unions are trying to find ways to support their tradeswomen or single parents as well. But yeah, number one goal is to have 100% female participation and a little bit more placement on the side of single parents.
Sure, and I think that's a really important point. I know we've talked about it at advisory meetings, and I've talked about it with other PFR members about that childcare and some of the hours and how that conflicts and that. So that's a really great point. I'm glad you mentioned it. So let's see. Well, I want to just ask you a final question before we move on to our next panelist. So you said you've been in there for a few years. You've seen a lot of stories, a lot of different folks come into the program, different outcomes. Maybe they go into the trades, maybe they use the tools and the lessons that you've taught them and move to a different part of the industry or different career altogether. But, through your work, can you share maybe one or two or, more if you think that's, good, of some common elements of success from people who come in, do the work and then come out and have a good outcome, whether that's being placed in a trade or just having something more financial stability at the end, whatever that looks like. Just what are some of those common things that you notice in your participants?
It's taking that first opportunity that comes their way either during or after HCCTP. So it always leads to the next thing and the next thing, and it gets, a firm foot in the door. For the most part, I have a lot of people that aren't coming from a construction background. So it's about incremental steps to get to that big goal. We talk about goals a lot. So a lot of the times people have a 5-year goal, but you might need, a 5-month goal. What's going to take you to the next step? So, graduates who have tunnel vision and are only looking at one trade or union have rarely found success. They might get lucky. But being open-minded on all avenues into the trades and work towards that big career goal by tackling some of those smaller ones along the way, staying productive, more training, more work-related experience, et cetera, related to that trade. And an understanding that construction has high times and low times and is a completely different industry to deal with. People aren't used to that. And that more often than not, you're going to need to apply to apprenticeship programs more than once. It is humbling, but it's completely doable if you keep at it and keep trying. And that's what I've seen. Our graduates, 2-3 years applying to the same union, finally getting that foot in the door. So I have witnessed firsthand what careers in the trades can do for someone, definitely money wise, but also in terms of that fulfillment, that purpose, and part of their identity as well.
Awesome. Well, Dawson, thank you again for joining us. And to the attendees who are listening and watching, feel free to put any questions in chat now if you want to, address it to Dawson in particular. If you have any questions about the program at Rock Valley, we'll get to those at the end. I think I can also state from Michaela and I that we will send out information about all of the different programs and resources that we'll discuss here to the attendee list at the end. So if you are interested in applying to the HCCTP, you'll have that right at your fingertips, and you can reach out and ask questions and do all that. So thanks again, Dawson, really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep, awesome. So now we're gonna move over to CCS and Youth Build Rockford, and we're gonna introduce William Chapman and James Alfredson. Guys, if you wanna bring your videos on and unmute yourselves. Hey guys, well, thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it. I know that Youth Build might be a program that people are a little bit more familiar with, but starting with you, James, actually, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, talk about your role in the program and CCS, and then William, after that, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and describe your role as well, please.
Great. Thanks for having us. My name is James Alfredson. I am the Director of Housing for CCS. And my role here at the agency is I oversee all the building trades training, as well as all of our projects in the community, whether it's working with one of our contracts or building the house with the participants on site.
Awesome.
And my name is William Chapman. I am the Executive Director of Comprehensive Community Solution, the nonprofit that houses the Youth Build program. I've been with this agency in this role for about 1.5 years now. And I've previously worked for this agency for 8 years before that.
Awesome. So thinking of Youth Build in particular, can you guys, similar to what I asked Dawson, can you just describe the main goal or goals of Youth Build? Who are the primary, targeted participants? A little bit of overview of how it works, what the schedule, what people do once they get in, that kind of thing.
I'll start us off, and then James can jump in. So Youth Build Rockford is a program that's been around for about 24 years, give or take 2. And the program is pretty much designed to take young people who aren't successful in traditional education, that may be struggling in high school, on the verge of dropping out, have dropped out, looking for employment. And these young people, again, are between the ages of 16 to 24. They come to us and they work towards getting their high school diploma. They work towards learning a trade. They learn life skills, leadership skills, employability skills, and so forth. And these young people attend the program from 8:30 to 3:30, Monday through Thursday, and then Friday they attend 8:30 to 12:30. So it's a full 9-month commitment, 9 months to a year. And the goal in that time is to work with that young person to build them up from where they are, to put them on a track so that they can graduate the program and go on to post-secondary education, apprenticeship, further training, or employment. So that's the goal of the Youth Build program in essence. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, James.
No, I think that covers everything as far as what we really focus on, even in the construction component. It's really about giving young people the necessary skills to be employed and have sustainable employment. I think that's often overlooked, and that's what we really focus on at the Youth Build side.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So as I mentioned, Youth Build, I think at least in this area, at least to me, it's pretty common. Even before I knew what Youth Build was, I had heard the name. So, and William, you had said that you were an employee there for a while and you've been involved. So just for people, who maybe have heard about it and had an idea, can you just describe a little bit of like, with you being the new director, having some new staff, are there any things that you've changed or evolved with the program in recent years? Anything kind of new to come out? Any new ideas or lessons or anything like that that people might be interested in hearing about?
That's a great question, Paul. So I am also a graduate of the program. I got here in Rockford in 2001 and was looking to, start my life over. And a relative gave me a flyer about the Youth Build program. Long story short, I applied. I got into the program. I graduated in 2002. I came back to work for the agency in 2004. And like I said, I worked for the agency for a total of 8 years before I left and came back and was in this role now. So to answer your question, there's a lot of changes. So from that experience of being a participant in the program, receiving all the rewards of, having a dedicated staff back me and making sure that I had all the information and opportunities that I needed to put me on the track to become a professional myself, to working here and kind of working with the different personalities, the different leadership that we had at the time and growing as a professional. In my role now, we spent a lot of time the previous year in 2020 because I got here right before the pandemic. So it was like I got here in March and then the pandemic had everything shut down in March. So we spent a lot of time on, number one, speaking amongst ourselves about what was important to the agency and going forward. And a few things came out of those conversations. Number one was to educate the community about the organization at large. Because as you said, most of the community knows this organization by Youth Build. While Youth Build has always been the organization's flagship program, it's not the only program the agency has ran, nor is it the only way that we impact the community. So I think our first goal was making sure that we rebranded ourselves to teach the community that, hey, we're not just the Youth Build program, but we're about impacting the community at large in several different ways, which is workforce development, meaningful community engagement, as well as affordable housing and building trades. So those three different branches of the organization, we wanted to make sure was clearly defined, that we had a clear mission statement that wasn't long and drawn out, and that we had clear core values that we live by as an organization and that our community partners can expect of us when they're doing business with us. So out of those talks, we have 3 strong programs right now. The Rock for Work program, which is the Illinois Youth Investment, which is funded by the Illinois Youth Investment Program dollars. And that's a state contract. And individuals in that program, while they can't commit to the full 9 months of Youth Build, they're able to go into this program, get a credential, and go to work or go to school. So that's a very short version of what we do with Youth Build. Then there's the Youth Build program, of course, which most people are familiar with. And our third and newest program is the Rock for Work program, which is an after-school program for high schoolers from freshman to senior. And we're looking to work with those individuals to make sure that they have mentors. They also are engaged in learning life skills. And we have a full gym that they're able to learn fitness and nutrition to make sure that they're on track and have the support that they need to continually graduate from high school. So that's kind of where the organization is, some of the changes that have taken place since I've been in this role.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. And hopefully, as we were talking about before the thing, we can get together, and I'd love to hear more about that. But that's really cool to hear kind of your revisioning and reimagining how you guys do your work. So I'll shoot this next question over to James, and feel free to chime in as you want to. But thinking of Youth Build in particular, but maybe this applies to other programs as well. So feel free to speak on those. But I gather that not only are you teaching the trade side or those skills that you'll need in the trade, those hard skills, but you're also working and focusing on leadership development, kind of being a professional, being someone that can go into an interview or whatever situation and present themselves well and be successful and be confident. So can you just kind of talk about how you guys address both sides of those, the skills or whatever you would call those, how you address those, and just anything that think might be interesting to people who maybe want to get involved, maybe want to join, or know someone that would be interested in joining the program?
Absolutely. I think across the board with any of our programming, our big focus is we look at the leadership as the backbone, because ultimately with the soft skills being important, whether you're in the trades or you're even working in a convenience store. So we focus day one on those. And we go from a training aspect where we have soft reminders, or we go through classes, and then we get to ourselves to a point where we consider a person work ready, and we implement those in full force. So when a person goes through our program, you know, and I'm reminded of a young lady when I was in Beloit, she was phenomenal at flooring. And I tried to convince her to do the trades, and she told me no. She was gonna take her enjoyment for the meticulous work into a different career. And I actually touched base with that young lady, and she said the same skills that she learned on the construction site applied in this other job. So when we're looking at the leadership, the whole agency as a staff uses that as the backbone to drive. And then the only modification would be based on training the young person on what they're looking to get into. So if the young person wants to be a pipe fitter, there's different ways that you work inside of the pipe fitting union versus electricity. So we individualize the plan, and that's where we've really seen our success. And William's been really good about making sure that each program is designed to fit the young person coming through the door, and gears them towards where they need to be.
And I'll just add to that in terms of making sure that the leadership is built into the actual structure of those programs. To give you an example, we have leadership roles within our youth build program where we have student council. So each team within the youth build program, they're able to elect an individual to represent their team on this council, which works with the program director to make the program better, address certain needs in the program and so forth. And that translates out to working with our community partners as well. And this is what kind of got me kind of wanting to go into this field. When I went through the youth build program, I was on, at the time, there was an organization called Council of Neighborhood Organizations. And I sat on a youth and education task force as a student at Youth Build. It was those things that inspired me to get into the work that I'm in. So it's built into the structure of the program, and then opportunities are provided throughout the program where young people can represent us in leadership roles. Like on our construction site, James has a tool chief. He also has a cleanup person. And these are individuals that receive a slightly higher stipend than other students for their leadership role within the program. Great.
Well, as a final kind of wrap-up question, if either of you feel free to chime in on this, but when you're, working, and this can apply to any of the programs that you guys, have, but can you share just, some common goals or aspirations, whether that's career, financial stability, family, whatever it is, but is there a common theme that you hear through your participants, and thinking, of the audience that we're speaking to today, that might be inspiring or might help other people understand why they come to you guys and your program and what they get out of that? Can you kind of just, comment on anything related to that?
Yeah, you wanna take that question, James?
I can start, and I know you'll have something to add. I know for me, one of the things that has been kind of a common goal, and I was actually having a talk with a person that I'm a mentor over in our program, is that we're a support system. We provide some stability for them, and it's guidance, whether in each field that we've kind of stepped ourselves into as a staff, we're providing the guidance that they need, and we're giving them the information. And sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. They don't like to always hear what we have to say. But that's kind of where we start, and we stand on that point as a staff. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, William.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head in terms of the support system. Most of the things that you hear with young people coming through the door is that they feel as though they didn't succeed in different environments because they felt as though they didn't have the support system that they needed to be successful. The smaller classroom sizes speak to that. We have 10 people on a team, so a staff person that's working with a group, they have more one-on-one time than your larger groups of young people.
Awesome. Well, we're going to wrap up this portion of the program today. So thank you to William and James for your discussion today. Also, thanks again to Dawson for talking about your program as well. And our next is going to be about registered apprenticeship programs. But first of all, we're just going to ask for the attendees on the program today a quick poll question to kind of see what type of trade everyone is interested here in. So Michaela's going to bring up that poll. So yeah, for the attendees, if you can just kind of respond to which trade, if any of these that you're interested in, just to give us a sense of, you know, what you might be interested in. And that not only helps us kind of see what you're looking at, but also for follow-up when we send out some resources, or if we can be further, you know, a connection or help in any way that, you know, so we know kind of who to direct you to or who you might be interested in talking to. So we'll just give this a minute and then we'll go into the next panel. Seeing a lot of electrical workers. All right, we got a pretty good mix actually.
Yeah, I see electrical workers, plumbers and pipe fitters, operating engineers coming in, iron workers. So lots of different interests here in the group today. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and then just kind of share the results to see what the group here is really interested in today. So some different, really eclectic group. So, okay.
I think for those, you know, for the attendees who are listening, I know plumbers and pipe fitters are currently accepting apprenticeship applications. I believe operating engineers, Local 150 is accepting applications now or soon. And electrical workers, they kind of have an ongoing thing. So good time to, if you're ready for that kind of step in it, good time to look at those. But yeah, I'm going to hand it over now to Michaela for the next set of panelists.
Thank you, Paul. So our next group of panelists that we're going to be talking with today a little bit is the registered apprenticeship program. So Youth Build and the Rock Valley College program, those are pre-apprenticeship style programs. These are actually the registered apprenticeship programs to get those union trade licensing. I'd like to welcome John Penny. He's with the Painters District. And then Jamie Sanchez as well. He's with the Chicago Regional Council of Carpenters. If you all wouldn't mind bringing your videos up and unmuting yourselves so we can just kind of chat and share our industry knowledge here. So I have just a few questions for you guys and we can just kind of go back and forth. I'll ask and then each of you can take your turn sharing your answers for these questions. So John, I'll start with you. What does your apprenticeship program specialize in?
Well, I'm going to start out a little bit different because I was looking at a lot of the different questions that were being asked, and I think it's quick to give a 10-second rundown of what a union is.
Okay.
I'm not so sure if high schoolers or anybody else is going to know what that means. The easy answer is it's a group of individuals that come together and bargain their wages and benefit package along with working conditions in the field. So that's the easiest answer I can give you. And those individuals, we actually work with different contractors in town, and some of those contractors are online today to help provide manpower, working men and women, to help them complete their projects that they are ultimately bidding on and going after in our local area. So I hope that gives a little insight to some people online today. And if there's any further questions, I'll try to keep an eye on the chat if anybody has any questions about what a union is. So now we take that, we set up our own school. So consider it a Rock Valley, if you will, except it's the Painters Union Apprenticeship and Training Program. And we specialize in a lot more than just coming in and painting your kitchen or painting your living room. We are involved and engaged in projects from every single water tower, bridge, municipal entities such as wastewater treatment plants, making sure that your water systems are up and running healthy and safely, all the way to stores like Target, Walmart's, Cherryville Mall, and even smaller down to a strip mall build out where you can buy a cupcake. And then we will get to the residential portion of our trade, which is very small in comparison to everything else that I mentioned. So we specialize in protective coatings, finishes that are aesthetically pleasing, meaning you like the color of the paint, and the protective coatings I cannot stress enough. And then we also get into fabrics, wall coverings, wood finishes, making sure that every piece of trim that you see has been finished properly, all the way down to really high-end specialty finishes.
Okay, well, a lot more than I was initially thinking. So
A lot
that-
more than what most people think.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, John. Jamie, would you mind sharing with us what your apprenticeship program specializes in?
Okay, we're the carpenters, so it's carpentry, but like John says, you know, we're very diversified. So not only, you know, cabinets or hardware or installing a door, but it's basically from the bottom of the building, from the layout of the building to the completion of the building. I mean, we do all the form work for the foundations, all the framing, which either wood or metal studs, structural steel. We do that. All the exterior sheeting, the siding, the insulation, the drywall, the acoustical ceilings, the installation of the cabinets, the doors, the windows. For example, on the bridge jobs, all the wood decking, all the pile driving, and the nuclear plants, all the scaffolding that is erected for all the different trades. That's part of our training. For the floor layers is all the carpeting, the VCT, the wood flooring. So, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like it. So we know now a little bit about what your guys' apprenticeship program specialize in. Can you maybe share a little bit more about what knowledge people need in order to join these apprenticeship programs? Jamie
So,
or John,
okay,
either one.
I can answer. Well, basically, they don't need any knowledge because they will be taught in school. Our
Okay.
apprenticeship program is 4.5 years. So they go 1 week per quarter. That's 40 hours in that week. And then so during the semester, they have to go 2 weeks. They have to work 650 hours on the field, and they will end up getting a raise of 10%. So they will move to the next level.
Okay.
So basically, our apprenticeships, they start at 40% of our wages, what is for a journeyman. And
Okay.
for the first 2 years, they will, if they go to school every time that they're scheduled to, and they do the hours on the field, they will be getting a raise every 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Then
Okay.
the third year, they are at 80% the whole entire year. And the 4th year, they're 90%, then they become a journeyman.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. John?
Yeah, so I also, Jamie broke it down pretty well. And I also say that an apprentice is similar to what you would consider a college student. And as they get to that journeyman level, that's what you would consider somebody that has their associates, bachelor's, master's, doctorate. So that kind of helps as people are in tune with the educational world and experience on comparing what apprentice or journeyman means. And every program, I'll say, is a little different. As far as the Painters Union, we do 1 full day of school, and that is every 2 weeks. That is unpaid. So it's a little different than some of the other programs that we learned about earlier with Youth Build and the Highway Apprenticeship, where they will pay you to attend school. We do not pay people to attend school. However, our apprenticeship programs for all unions is essentially free. Some unions do charge different amounts for books. However, the education is free, and several of our apprenticeship programs amongst the different trades are college accredited courses, and you will most likely leave with an associate's degree from multiple trades. I know mine is one of them. The electricians are one. I think the carpenters, I can't remember all of them. Paul
Okay.
might be able to give a little bit more insight on that. So that is kind of a quick rundown for the painters. It's a 3-year program. As Jamie said, just about every apprenticeship program also gives 6-month incremental raises until you get from that journey or apprenticeship level to a journeyman status of making what we call our top wage.
Okay. You guys are giving a wealth of information. You're answering some of my other questions that I had. So one of them was how many years? So for the painters, you said 3 years, John. And then for the carpenters, you said 4.5 years, Jamie. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So what is the application or interview process look like? How do you determine on who gets into that apprenticeship program that year?
Okay, so for us, they go to our apprentice. We have our own training center here in Rockford at 1117 Tabala Boulevard, and they go and fill up an application. They have to. We're at the need of our contractors, so basically they can go and apply. We don't bring anybody in until our contractors need the manpower.
Okay.
So sometimes if they're lucky, they can get hired right away, or sometimes they can wait for months.
Okay.
That's usually how it works. But because we don't bring anybody in if we don't have the work for them, because in construction, as you can see, I mean, sometimes there's a lot of work, sometimes there's not a lot of work.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Chuck?
Jamie, I'm going to continue to build off what Jamie is saying. And I will point out there are different trades that do have different rules. I know my rules are similar to what Jamie was discussing. I do know trades such as the electricians, the plumbers, they are governed a lot differently by the Department of Labor here, and they have to open up their application process once a month or once every 2 months. And so those dates will vary. Again, I'm going to refer that back to Paul Nally if anybody has questions about a specific trade. And the one thing that I think Jamie also highlighted that does not get talked about enough in construction is we are a profession that only goes off of how the economy is going. So if there's not construction happening, we are going to have a much smaller apprenticeship class that year, if any.
Yeah.
We will, in some cases, not bring an apprentice in. So the competition can get really intense. And for the trades that still have the Department of Labor required application dates, sometimes they take those applications and nobody gets hired.
Okay.
I say that because the application process is one part, but if there's not jobs to put those apprentices in, we won't bring them in that year or that month or that time frame. So it really comes down to me thinking about how I got my first job before I went into construction. And you run around to different stores, you run around to different restaurants, you're putting applications everywhere. You don't get to circumvent that process. That still is real, even in construction.
Okay.
I think that's something important to highlight because I've seen too many people come with really unrealistic expectations on how the hiring process works.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good to know. What would you say that one thing could be a barrier to people being able to get into these apprenticeship programs?
I'll take this one, Jamie. One of the barriers is people can't wait 30, 60, 90 days until they find their first job. In some cases, the electricians are accepting applications a year in advance.
Oh, wow.
They can't wait a year to go. They need to be in a financial position to say, okay, I'm going to work this job. And if I do get that call to go into construction, then I'm going to go in and be able to take that opportunity and walk away from the employment that they're currently in.
Okay. Anything that you'd like to add to that, Jamie?
No, he covered pretty well on that because yes, a lot of those trades they take applications every month, one day of the month, but they only take apprentices once a year. For example, the
Oh, okay.
operators, I mean, the last time that they were taking applicants, I think like 5,000, they had 5,000 applicants. It's like,
Uh,
because their territory is very big.
okay.
So sometimes it's pretty hard for them.
Okay. All right. Good to know. So kind of summarizing everything that we've learned about the apprenticeship program, how does it work when somebody graduates the apprenticeship program? Are they hired into companies? Do you guys work with them at all to secure that? How does that part work?
So yes, they're already working for contractors. So once they become a journeyman, actually in construction, one of the good things is that it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, everybody gets paid the same amount.
Mhm.
And once you become a journeyman, you're at the top scale. So you will go and work for any of the contractors. Let's say, for example, that the apprentice finished their apprenticeship today, and that they don't have no work, but then I can send him to work with another company. Automatically, that contractor is going to be paying that person journeyman wages.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I mean, uh, which one thing I got to go back a little bit, in construction, if we don't work, we don't get paid. Like John was mentioning, like for the training, they don't get paid for the training. We don't get paid for the training. So we get very good wages, but if we don't work, we don't get paid at all.
Okay. Okay. Something to think about as people are considering these careers, and some of them
Yes.
can be seasonal as well. Absolutely. So, well, I really appreciate your all's time. I did see some questions coming in through the chat, so I want to save time at the end for Q&A so we can ask those questions from our attendees as well. So thank you, John and Jamie, for sharing your industry knowledge and about these apprenticeship programs. And I'm going to, I have a poll here I think we're going to bring up next. So let me share my screen again. So I have another poll question that we're going to ask you before we go into our next group of speakers. This question is, how much experience do you have with the construction industry? Thought I'd go ahead and see what people have to say with this. And this can be union or non-union. What's your experience with the construction industry? All right. So I see a lot of people here. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Just 1 minute. See a lot of people have no experience with the trades. We have one person 3 years or less, and then one person that has more than 5 years with the trades. So some interesting statistics there with our group today. I'd like to introduce our next speakers. We have Dixie Perko. She's with IBEW Local Union 364. And then Sandra Sagala, she's with our Painters District, Council 30, Local Union 607. You ladies wouldn't mind bringing your cameras up and unmuting yourselves so you can share all of your industry knowledge that you have. Dixie, do you hear us? I don't see you. Oh, there she is. Hi.
Yeah, I got booted out, sorry.
That's okay. All right, so we have Dixie and Sandra here today. They're representing our union trades, those women that's in the field. If you remember Paul's statistics from earlier, they're part of that 3% number. So of women that's every single day they're out there working in the field. They're not in the office or in one of those other areas that they're journeymen out there working. So we have some questions about your guys's industry experience and your knowledge. So I'd first like to just start off with telling us a little bit about yourself and why you chose the trades for your career. Sandra, would you like to go first?
Yes, my name is Sandra Segala. I am a painter with Local 607. I am also the president of my local 607. I started in the union 16 years ago. And prior to that time, single parent, working 3 jobs, and my main job was eliminated. Therefore, I was unemployed, and I attended Rock Valley through the unemployment department. I had a unique advantage in that my brother was a union contractor. And in that, I approached him on a whim and asked him, do you need help? I'm looking for something. And he told me I would need to join the union, attend apprenticeship classes and whatnot. So I went through everything that was needed and necessary to do that. And I started painting. I was totally new to the field. I had no construction background. I just had a willingness to provide for my family. I was the sole provider. So that was my drive. That got me to become more wanting to succeed in the trades. Was that I was provided benefits, and that's what I needed. I was on public assistance for benefits for my children. So that was important to me to get into the trade.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Dixie?
My name is Dixie Perko. I am an IBEW Local 364 member here in Rockford. I got into the trade in 2000. Prior to that, I was a machinist. I went through an academy program, which was a work study program. It was a 2-year program. And by the time I was done, there wasn't any positions as machinist available, and I really didn't care for the job that they had placed me in. So I pretty much always working with my hands and building things, working on cars. So I decided to try doing electrical work because environment always changes, and I got tired of being in a factory. So that's how I ended up in IBW.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Being a woman in your industry, you're a minority in that field. So, and there's going to be advantages and disadvantages, right, with every job that everybody has. So first I want to ask you, what would you say that is an advantage of being a woman in the trades? Sandra?
I would say an advantage / disadvantage to be a woman in the trade is because you are that lone wolf out there on a job sometimes you're the only female on a job. These other trade workers, your coworkers, they're going to remember you. And therefore, that's the disadvantage, because if you are not doing your job, I don't want to say correctly, that's not right. They're going to remember you for the work that you do. So if you're out there working hard and really giving effort, you're going to be remembered for that.
Okay, good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Dixie, is there anything you'd like to share with that?
I would actually agree with what Sandra said. Being one of the few females out there, it's kind of hard, especially when you're starting out as an apprentice. A lot of guys will think about, oh, well, I hope you're not like, and they try to compare with who they've worked with previously that has been a female in that role. And it's one of those things that you just kind of have to forget about it, go out there, do your job, and, let them know that what you know, what you don't know. If you want to say, you know what, I don't know that, but teach me. That goes a lot farther than complaining about it or saying I can't do that before they even tell you what the job is. So it is something to be able to do the job, do the work best that you can, and it's a reputation that really gets you through your career. As far as if they know that you're a hard worker, you're gonna get done whatever needs to be done, and actually try to take those steps to better yourself while you're going through, then they'll remember that more than some of the things from when you first start out.
Okay, good to know. All right, thank you for that. So, talking about advantages and disadvantages, what would you say is your biggest challenge being a woman in the construction trades?
Aside from the whole being like the minority on the job as far as women in the field, I would say some of the kind of obvious things, physical strength, stamina, endurance. But I have the mantra I always say: work smart, not hard. Okay, seek out that cart or some way to do all that physical stuff that isn't going to break your back, so plan out your day or your activity according to seek out help from what you can muster yourself on the job site. But I would also probably say like women issues on the job. I was pregnant while I was in my apprenticeship, and so I was working 6 months going up 20-foot ladders,
Oh,
6 months pregnant. So I am just so fortunate and beyond happy that my union just recently enacted a new maternity leave program, which will give you your last trimester of pregnancy. You are not expected to work, and they pay you, as well as your additional 6 weeks after you deliver. So it's phenomenal and just groundbreaking. So I'm just glad to be part of that.
That's truly groundbreaking, and you don't hear of that very often. And that's definitely a challenge that I think many women face in the workforce. Those last weeks of pregnancy and stuff.
Yeah.
Dixie, what would you share as your biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge is, you're expected to keep up with the guys, do the work. And at 5'4" and, 130 pounds, it was rough at the beginning, but it's a matter of trying to find out what ways work for you, because what ways work for me is not going to work for that guy that's 6 foot and 200 pounds. It's just physically not. So it's a matter of trying to find the things that will work for you. And as Sandra said, work harder is not the thing I want to do. I want to work smarter, not harder, save my body for as much as I can being in construction. But, if I need help, I'll grab someone. Hey, I need help moving this, or can you give me a hand with this? Rigid pipe's heavy. Some of the work is really heavy, and some guys will laugh at you, be like, hey, come on, you can do it. And others, they'll be like, well, you know what? Yeah, I get it. And they'll give you a hand. So it's just a matter of finding that balance of when to ask for help, when to go ahead and just push through and get it done by yourself. But the main thing is to work safe out of everything. And if you know that it's not safe, then by all means, make sure you get somebody else to help you. And we all want to go home with the same way that we got to work. So that's usually the best thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think John had his hand raised here to share something.
Yeah, I wanted to share this. I've got the privilege of working with Sandra for several years now, and something that I'm really proud of for our union specifically is, when I hear Sandra's story about being a pregnant worker, right, and what that struggle brought. One of the things that we just passed recently was 40 weeks of paid maternity leave in our union. And I know we're not the first. There's one other union that I know of. And I say that for one, because I'm proud of it, but for two, this is indicative of what I believe will be a ripple effect through the unionized construction industry to make sure that we are going to continue to reach women that are interested in construction and help them through those barriers that traditionally was no help and nobody even gave it a second thought. And, I think you're also going to see more and more of what Dixie was saying, as well as our journey persons helping each other out, because all we got to do is make people conscious and aware of what is no longer acceptable. And I think that a lot of the progressive labor unions are getting to that point. So I just wanted to share that because I'm proud of it. And I know that Sandra is also pretty proud of what our union is able to do as well.
Yeah, that is really awesome, and truly, I think groundbreaking and revolutionary when it comes to, women working and things like that. So that's awesome, awesome.
There's one other thing I wanted to add.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge for me being in construction isn't even the job. It's the family life and trying to balance me being a single parent, trying to figure out daycare. That is, I know you guys touched on it earlier.
Yeah.
That is a big issue because we cover 9 counties. I live in Byron and I could be working in Rock Falls, or I could be working up close to the state line. I mean, it's hard. And so the biggest thing that I can say is, it takes a village to raise a kid. Make sure your village has got enough people so that you can work, because it's rough if you can't find daycare that opens early enough to be able to get to your job in the morning.
Yeah. Dixie, I remember the days when my son was young and it'd be 4:45 and I'm getting him out of bed to take him to the, luckily I had my family, to take him to the sitter to just start my day. So I had to start my day hours before my work day actually started.
Yes.
And expected to do a good job that day at work. So
Yeah.
it's a challenge, but it's rewarding.
Yes.
Absolutely. So what would you say, these two questions next kind of go hand in hand about being maybe the best part of your job, or what it makes you proud working in the industry that you're in?
The best part of my job is generally, I don't have to worry about how much the next guy is getting paid. I know my pay is equal to him. I'm working just as hard. I should get paid just as much. Mm-hmm. So being a union, that's not negotiable. It is what it is. You get that pay. I love that part of it. Benefits are awesome. And then the sense of being treated with respect or respected for the job that you do and the knowledge that you have about your trade, that's a really good feeling too as well. I'm proud of, I was a recipient of an award, a Tradeswomen Heroes Award that was awarded by the North American Building Trade Unions. It's an international group that recognizes tradeswomen who go beyond the workday, giving back after with the community involvement and such. So that was an award earlier. Our Tradeswomen Build Nations also has a virtual support group called Lean In Circles. So I am a Lean In Circle leader, which we meet, all trade women meet monthly and discuss any hardships or areas of concerns, or maybe some tips and whatnot to better their day. Apprentices, retired tradeswomen, it's phenomenal. And I was recently asked, well, not recently, in the past year, asked to be a spokesperson for the group as well. But just so happy and proud to build that sisterhood with tradeswomen that are just really getting at it, busting themselves to do great work. It's just so empowering.
That's awesome. Really, thank you for sharing that. Dixie, did you have anything that you would like to share with that?
It's mainly the craftsmanship for me. It's the pride of the fact that I was able to do the job in a craftsman-like manner, and in the end, the customer's happy with whatever the finished product is. Mm-hmm. As far as the other best parts, it'd be all the people that you meet. I mean, right now we have a ton of work here in the electrical union. There's a lot of data centers going up in DeKalb, and we've got travelers from all over. I've probably worked with guys from 30 different states in the last 6 months, because there's been that kind of work right now that we have, that we need help manning our work. So you meet a lot of people, And sometimes you get lucky enough that you meet the same travelers on some different jobs and they'll remember you. Hey, I remember you on such and such job. So it's fun to really have some solidarity, even though you're from, states away. You're all an IBEW member. So the solidarity is a really cool thing that if you're not in a union, it's one of those things you can't explain to somebody as far
Yeah.
as solidarity and the for us, the brotherhood. Other than that, other best parts is just the challenge. I took foreman for the first time like 3 years ago, and I've been asked a couple other times to be foreman, and so it's the challenge of the fact that they have enough respect to and know that I can do my job to be able to offer me to run a crew or to do something else. And so it's the baby steps of breaking that glass ceiling and getting some of these roles that women typically have not been able to do in previous years. Last year, IBW put together, the business manager decided to make a minority committee. And that's part of it, is to tackle some of the problems that minorities and women have, trying to get more numbers of applicants in. So it's definitely changing, slow progression, but it's moving forward in the right direction.
Yeah, it really does sound like it, and then I love that you being proud of the craftsmanship, because there's years of knowledge that you guys work towards to be able to do and work in the fields that you work in. And that's definitely something to be really proud of. And I can't remember if it was John or Jamie that had said that it's equivalent to being a college student and getting your college degree. That much time and energy and effort goes into your career. So we still have one more group of panelists that we want to talk with, and then also do our Q&A. So I want to thank you, Sandra and Dixie, for answering these questions and sharing your industry knowledge. Please stay on, because we do have several questions in the chat to ask our panelists once we're done with the last group. So thank you, and I'm going to share my screen here. We got another quick poll question that we're going to do, and I think Paul's going to come on and handle this poll for us before we get to our last group of panelists.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do this one real quick. I think that's up now for everyone. So
Yep,
basically,
go ahead.
Just basically, we're just saying, since we have both on the contractor side and the trade side, just kind of interested to see what people are thinking, what they might be more interested in. And of course, we're going to get into the contractors as our final panel group. So we'll learn a lot more about that shortly. So, all right, so pretty good split, more or less, right now, 50-50. So, well, that's good. And that's why we had both. We thought it was important to have both sides of the industry represented and to discuss that, because I think that's important. A lot of my work is talking about the trades, but I also think it's important to talk about the entrepreneurial side, because we need contractors to employ people and put people to work as well. So there we have it. It's looks a pretty close split there. All right, share the results. There you go. So 5-4 there. So pretty good. All right, go ahead and introduce the next panel, Danielle and Linda, if you would not mind unmuting your audio and bringing your videos back up. Hey, Danielle.
Hi.
Linda. Let's see. Oh. There we go. See you now, Linda, and if you can just unmute your mic. There we go. Awesome. Well, thank you both for being part of this. Really been looking forward to this. Something aside that we don't necessarily talk about as much, but I think is super important. So I appreciate you guys, you both spending some time and talking to us. And then hopefully, Lynn, I know you got to jump off a little bit early, but hopefully you can stay around for a little bit and answer some questions. I saw we had some come in that will probably be relevant. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you both to just introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about your business, what kind of work, construction work your business does or focuses it primarily on, and how long you've been in the industry. And Linda, we'll go ahead and start with you.
I want to thank you for asking me to join this panel. I have an interest in both sides of your discussion, not just as an owner, but I have chaired workforce development 4 different times. So I'm keenly interested in seeing women come into non-traditional fields. Compost Construction is a family-owned company. It was started in 1984. We are actually the only company remaining from a group that started at that time. The city of Rockford was a strong proponent of encouraging contractors. And I was a founder of an organization that was considered a model for the state of Illinois. From my vantage point, I think it's really important to touch on the entrepreneurial side, not where we are today. I believe that this is an industry that is extremely labor and capital intensive. And although I encourage women to take a look at it, they need to recognize that owning and operating a construction company is not an easy path. Illinois is a strong union state, and although you do not have to have a union company, you need to recognize that there will be obstacles if you choose to go the other route. In all probability, if you do determine that you wish to set up a company, you can choose your format, be it limited partnerships, corporations, sub-S, or regular corp. But recognize that it's highly improbable that you will begin to bid as a general that early on. And so if you are looking at bidding as a sub, you need to recognize that there will be people who will be making demands of you. Your insurance, extremely costly. You need liability and you will need workman's comp. You will be asked to sign union contracts, which again, I repeat, this is a very capital intensive industry. From our vantage point, we are family owned. My personal background, I worked for the federal judge in this area for 23 years. I have an unusual background and it's been an interesting journey. Owning a construction company requires a lot of skill. It's not just a matter of painting your name on the door. It's an industry that has early hours plus late hours. It goes with the flow of what the economy is at the time, and the competition is extremely keen. As I said, we were started in 1984, so we're over 30 years old. Company's family owned. We are now into a 3rd generation. Again, a woman. My granddaughter has joined us, U of I grad. We're actually an educated company. My son is a U of I grad. We push education with our men. We're a very diverse company. I have very strong feelings that if you're taking government dollars, you need to recognize where they come from. We do a lot of government work, and as a result of that, we pay close attention to distributing that back into the community. It's other than that, and I don't mean to discourage women from starting a company, but I think it's important that they recognize that it's not an easy path.
Sure.
And again, it's something that can be done. You're seeing 2 women sitting here. We come from entirely different backgrounds, entirely different philosophies. But it is something that can be done, but you need a support basis.
Sure. Well, thank you. A lot in there, and that I'm sure a lot of different insights that people wouldn't have necessarily expected. So thank you. Danielle, can you just describe a little bit of how you got in the industry? Describe your company a little bit. Anything you'd like to add as far as introduction?
Sure. Yeah, Linda did a great job covering in general the, I guess, not so beautiful side of owning a business. It is definitely very difficult, but my brief history in this is, well, I'm with NTRAC Group. We started in 2010. Our business does road reconstructions, so anything from basically completely tearing a road apart to putting in new water main, storm sewer, sanitary, and then putting the road all back together, paving it, doing, curb and gutter, sidewalk, landscape restoration, everything that needs to go back into place, hopefully in a better form than it was prior to the construction. And we also do demolition. We have a couple of quarries that we operate. We do snow removal in the winters and run an asphalt plant. So that's kind of NTRAC in a nutshell. And prior to that, I was in real estate development, and that's where I kind of first got my taste of construction and the development / construction side of things. And that's where I kind of initially started getting my interest in, oh, wait a second, now construction isn't necessarily just what you think of at first, glance of, a bunch of men on the side of the road in hard hats and bright yellow vests, and that's that. There's definitely a place for women, and there's a lot of different pieces and parts in construction outside of just the physical work being done as well. So that's what kind of drew me in initially, is the team effort, all the pieces and parts that go into making a project successful.
Great. Well, thank you both for those introductions. So Linda, I'll jump back to a question to you. So you had talked about a lot of the challenges of the, of starting a business or running a business, getting, into it, just general operations and capital intensive and stuff. So what was it about the industry, about this work that got you interested, that made you get involved to begin with, had you continuing it on despite all of the challenges and things that you encounter that might be maybe a little bit larger hurdles than other type of entrepreneurial endeavors that you might have got into? What was it about it, that industry, that you enjoy, that keeps you going? Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
I love a challenge. I like to win, and I'm not necessarily proud of that, but I'm very competitive. It's family owned, and I would hope that one day I will pass a successful company to a son and the rest of my family. This has afforded me the opportunity to do a lot of community work. I'm very community minded. At one point, sat on 7 or 8 different boards. As I said, I have a keen interest in job training. Spent 30 years on that board, as a matter of fact. Donated a lot of time. What brought me to it and keeps me in it? I've reached a point in my life that it's almost like raising a child. You take an idea and you run with it. We are road builders. I don't think I mentioned that. We're IDOT pre-qualified and have built a number of roads here in this community. Not only here, but outside of the area. And all of those things they give me a sense of pride. I've been able to not only provide well for my own family, but I make contributions to a number of different favorite charities, many women's organizations, as a matter of fact, but that's what brought me to it and keeps me in it.
Great. That's very interesting. Thank you. Danielle, same question to you. Granted, you said, I think 2010 that you started, so a little of a newer company for sure, but in the last 10 years or so, what's kept you going? What is it about the industry that keeps you excited or interested and engaged?
I would say, similar things as the competitive side. Definitely, it's a challenge. It's a constantly constant learning experience for me. I know that I can remember ever since graduating from college, I had said, someday I want to own my own business. I wasn't quite sure what it was going to be. And you could have told me, I don't know, anything other than construction, I never would have guessed it would have been construction. But since being involved in construction now, I love the fact that I'm still learning. I think that's great for anybody in any industry at any point in their lives to just keep learning. And so that's kind of what keeps me definitely very engaged and involved. Obviously, laws are always changing. Just everything is always changing around us and everything in life. So, this is one area that you can truly kind of try to challenge yourself to become an expert in and be constantly evolving and getting better at what you do as well.
Great. Well, thank you. Well, sticking with you, Danielle, for this next question. So we had talked a lot actually already at this point about that whole work-life balance and the pressure that women have, often more pressure, right, to figure out childcare, take care of some of the other duties that we might have. Can you just speak to, as a business owner in this industry, or just in a general sense as well, how do you manage that? What kind of lessons or things have you learned in the last 10 plus years of owning your business and managing your business that you might share with others if they're interested, or maybe they're trying to start something up and they might encounter those? Can you just kind of speak to that and what's been successful for you? How have you managed that? Anything like that can help people out?
Sure. Yeah, I would say that's definitely a challenge for women working in any field, owning a business. It is definitely a juggle. I joke often that if a woman can manage her family and her kids and all the commitments, for her immediate family, extended family, whatever family may mean, pretty sure you can probably manage a construction project or can manage, things in your business life pretty well, because a lot of those characteristics are very important to carry over from both personal to professional and vice versa. Being good with time management, being good with multitasking, good communication skills, all those things that you need. But it's definitely a struggle to keep up with it all. And it's long days and late nights and early mornings, as one of the women said earlier. I am lucky that my children are somewhat older now, but when they were younger, I remember trying to tell myself this is a good way for me to teach them a good work ethic and to kind of bring them into this with me so that they can see it's not just mom carrying the weight of everything or trying to juggle it all. But let's make this a family thing. Let's try to make it fun. Let's try to all act like we're going to champion, this week together. It's a busy week, whether it's for business related items, family related items, etc. And again, all with kind of the end goal of trying to teach my kids that, listen, you need to have a good work ethic and you put in a lot of work, but hopefully you get back what you put into it. And that's kind of a way that I've approached it. Nonetheless, there are some weeks that are more of a struggle and difficult than others. And all you can do is do the best that you can and keep setting little goals along the way to try to just, okay, accomplish this, move on, and take it one step at a time.
Great, thank you. Lynn, I'll give you, particularly since you talked about your family and how important that is to you, any thoughts or feedback you have on that kind of question or scenario?
I have a comment more than thoughts. My children are both grown, but I have employees with children, and I've always made it a point to remember my days of working for someone else. And I still do that today. I had one young lady who has just recently had a baby. I gave her 4 months off with pay.
Wow.
One of the things I do for my men and my crew is very important to me. But when they have a child, for example, starting kindergarten, I give them the morning off. You can come to work any day of the week. You can only take your child to school the very first time once in your lifetime. So I try to remember as a woman that sometimes we have been treated differently, but we also see things differently. And so I govern in the same way. And I would hope that when the day comes that someone else is setting the policies for compost construction, that they too remember that families have needs. I'm very family conscious, I will tell you that. And I try to live what I believe. And I think it's important for an owner to not just have privileges for themselves, but to recognize that their employees have needs too.
Sure. No, I think everyone can definitely appreciate that, and have been in different scenarios with different employers and understand the good and bad of that. So Linda, sticking with you. So we've talked a variety of times here on this program so far about the need to increase, women representation in the trades, minority representation in the trades. Can you talk about any ideas, and you've already stated, your experience on volunteer boards and workforce board and things like that. So, maybe drawing from that experience, but any other ideas or thoughts you have on what type of programs or policies or, what have you, that you believe, we can do now or should be thinking about now that will really help with that, with increasing the numbers of not only applicants to apprenticeship programs, but journey workers that get into the career and go on and have a long career and retire or start a contracting business, whatever it is. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, probably too outspoken, really. I have strong feelings on both sides of that coin that you're talking about. In the terms of starting a company, I would encourage women to not go into this blindly. I'm not discouraging women from starting a business. I'm saying to you, do your homework. You need to have skills, and you cannot possibly do everything yourself. Let's say you're weak in accounting, then you hire someone to do the accounting. Play on your own strengths. Maybe marketing is your strength, but it's extremely important that you try not to do everything, because you will fail. None of us can do everything by ourselves, especially even for me. I still have a family. I mean, I don't ignore them. In terms of employees, I'm very employee conscious. I think, having spent many years on the workforce board, I'm very concerned with where we are today, not only in this community, but in our country. We have many people that have taken a considerable time away from work, and I see major problems developing. I truly do. I think there were tax problems based on the unemployment that was paid. I think that people really do, they've lost the desire to compete and to work. And that's what's made this country great. I'm very concerned with what I see. I've made that point to workforce. We need to be certain that the jobs are not only made available to people, but that they have the skills to do these jobs, not just construction, but skills in general.
Sure. Danielle, I'll give you an opportunity if you have any thoughts on that question as well before we move to the next one.
Yeah, I agree with what Linda's saying. And also, if mentors, I think, are so important for anyone who's trying to, find a career path or find their way. But yes, like Linda said, if you can find and kind of decipher and hone in on what your strengths are, and then really try to find a mentor, whether that's just someone you work alongside with in your current position, but you look up to them, or whether it's someone who is, in a management or ownership position in a different business, to try to hook up with a mentor, if nothing else, to teach you just a general good work ethic in life. And starting at an early age, obviously in high school would be great, to somehow put some sort of mentorship program and knowledge base in with high school students in our area, to be able to obviously educate them first and foremost of what's out there, but then to encourage them and keep exploring and kind of just keep setting the standard for what is expected in the working world.
Great, thank you. So on this next question, we've talked about this, a little bit in and out as well in the last panelist, but the kind of perception and reality of construction being kind of a tougher industry, physically and otherwise to get into. Linda, both of you really talking about some of the challenges, tough wise of getting into it and the business owner standpoint. But not only that, it is, as we've talked about many times here already, male dominated. But we have some great examples on this program today, and I know there's many, many more out in the community, although we still want to grow the numbers, of course, of women who are successful in this industry. So just in a general kind of thought on that, what are any pieces of advice, inspirational kind of thing that you would want to say to people on this call, people who might hear recording, or anything that people might take away and have a discussion with someone later on, that maybe they're interested in the industry, they see the the fair wages you can get, or the business opportunities, whatever side they're looking at it, but they may be a little bit hesitant because of some of the challenges we've all been talking about. What advice do you have to women and to encourage them to get into this industry if they're interested? And what strategies have you used to maybe overcome some of those hurdles if you face them as a woman in the industry? To you, Danielle.
Okay. I would say this, don't shy away from construction just because it's construction. There's definitely plenty of areas for women. Women are welcomed to the industry. Really, frankly, there's programs set up by the state and local municipalities that are always encouraging that. So don't go with your initial maybe connotation of what construction is, and see that there's a lot of areas of construction. It doesn't necessarily have to be the person in the field doing the physical work. So you can find an area, maybe the design and engineering stages is something you'd really be interested in. Maybe contracts and negotiations. There's plenty of different areas. Project management, where you're still involved, but you're not actually doing the physical labor. And again, use your strengths and hone in on where you could see yourself fitting in and be a strength in the whole team that's needed to do a successful project. And don't rule it out. Like I said, I would have never guessed that I would have been in construction. But I'm so glad that my life has taken, the direction that it has. So I would definitely encourage other women to do the same, because there's definitely a place for them.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, we're glad as well, and that you could be here today. And Linda, we'll just kind of wrap it up with this final question to you. Feel free to kind of go off that question, or just any feedback, thoughts that you may have to the audience today, the audience that may hear this later, as far as encouraging women to get into this industry, whether it be on the trades or on the contracting side. Any kind of parting thoughts you may have today?
Yes, I'll try to wrap it up for you. I'm a proponent of education. I'm actually a former school board president. So I push the education, and I would encourage any woman, before you sign on the dotted line, take advantage of some of the classes that are out there. Now, granted, because of the pandemic, we're not seeing as much available to the public, but there are still classes at a Department of Transportation. Log into the website, see what's being done. There's technical support for you, the tollway. They have marvelous classes out there. The classes, we have classes that are available at Rock Valley. Some of those you do have to pay for, but it's money well spent. And even if you ultimately decide that opening a business is not for you, or that the trades are not for you, no one's going to take your education from you. What you put up here is yours. No one can take that. And I'm a strong proponent of education before you undertake a project. I would say to any woman contemplating a construction company, you need to be certain that it's very capital intensive. Do not underestimate how much money you are going to need. A small piece of equipment, you go out to buy a skid loader. If you want a new one, you're going to drop $50,000 on a basic skid loader. We build roads. Our curb machine, $250,000. I mean, these are not small dollars. And so I encourage women to, I call it doing your homework. Please don't think that you could just decide one day you want to be a contractor. We all have skills. Skills can be honed, but certainly, take the time to investigate.
Great. Well, that's all great advice from both of you today. Thank you so much to Danielle and Linda. Linda, I know you might have to run for another obligation. Danielle, if you have time to stay on for a few minutes of Q&A that we're going to move to next. But thank you both so much for your discussion today. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, of course. Thank you. All right, so yeah, so I think, let's see how we're doing on time. Yeah, good. So we're doing good on time, and we've got, I know, a lot of questions that have come in. Michaela, you've probably been tracking them as well. I know that, and thanks to Dixie and John and William, at least I know I saw some folks had kind of chimed in while we've been going through things and answering them a little bit as we go on, as we went on. So I appreciate that as well. Michaela, do you have anything first while I pull mine up that you think would be good to pose to any of the panelists? Oh, and also to the panelists, if you wouldn't mind, those who are sticking around, if you could bring your video back right now so everyone can see you, and we'll try to divvy these questions up to everyone appropriately.
Yeah, video, and you can go ahead and unmute as well.
Yes, thank you.
So we had in the, one of the questions was, how does one get a job in a non-laborious position in the construction field? What kind of position titles are there that don't require going through, they said a degree, but maybe the entire apprenticeship program? Is there anything that you can say in those fields that aren't in the field, but maybe on the other side?
I think,
question, it's kind of more of a union question in my opinion. And it's pretty easy. There are none. So come into construction, that's exactly what it is. Are there opportunities above and beyond actual physical labor? Yes. However, they're going to be really hard to come by if you don't know the industry, if you haven't worked in the industry. You're going to have, and I listened to Ms. Campos and Ms. Schlichting, and those two women have been through the industry. I mean, they didn't just fall into it. They had a lot of background experience, and I won't talk on behalf of them. They can fill you in on that. But as far as the union side, there are none.
Thank you. Do you have a question, Paul, from the chat?
Yeah, so there's been some questions, I'll just kind of maybe some of the, kind of summarize multiple questions about, are women welcome? Do men help you out when you're in there? Are they willing to show you if you're new on the job? Do you ever feel like you need to hold back in your skill level? So maybe, Dixie or Sandra, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that, of your experience in those regards.
Yeah, so when I first got in, like I said, I got in 2000, so I've been in for 21 years. It was way different when I got in versus how it is now. When I got in, guys were pretty rough around the edges, and now they realize that, sometimes that wasn't the best thing. So if you ask for help, most of the people now, they don't have an issue with it, with showing you or trying to teach you what it is that you're learning to do. If it comes to physical work, as far as moving things that are heavy, awkward, precarious things, pretty much anyone helps you out if you ask. And especially now with the big push for safety, it's more from a safety standpoint. They want to make sure that you guys are going home the same way you got to work, and that you're not injuring yourself, you're not putting yourself in harm's way. So it's very much now an environment of, if you need help, ask. And so that's really not an issue. And it seems like guys are more willing to mentor female workers coming in, more so than they did when I got in. My mentor was an older female journeyman who had been in for quite a while, and so she wasn't really in tune with what some of the younger female apprentices were going through at that point in time. But the biggest thing is ask. Worst they can say is no.
Awesome, thank you.
So I see a question, maybe we'll start with Dawson and then go to William after this. So and I think this question was answered pretty frankly by John and Jamie as well, about like when you go to an apprenticeship program, do you need any experience in that specific trade? And they said, no, you don't. But thinking of the apprenticeship readiness program, so again, beginning with you, Dawson, and then William, do applicants, if they're interested in your guys' programs, do they need any experience in that particular area to join and be accepted into your programs?
I have no one that has a construction background in my current class. I rarely do. They're typically coming from one industry transitioning into construction. And that's kind of the beauty of the program, is to help bridge those skill gaps and navigate their way through what it means to be in an apprenticeship, in a union. What is a union? What are we talking about when we talk about signatory contractors? So it's basically like a trades construction 101. So you would not need any knowledge prior to that, just the willingness to come in every day on time with a positive attitude, work well with others, and really say that this is your dream and we'll help you out.
Great. Williams or James, feel free to answer that as well.
I think Dawson made it easy for it.
Okay.
Same answer.
Same answer.
Same.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. If you're interested in going into the trades and you're interested in the services that we offer, our job is to make sure we get you ready to go into that apprenticeship.
Great.
Awesome. I also saw a question in the chat as well about somebody about help with jobs or training or things like that. At the Rockford Housing Authority, you don't have to be a resident of the Housing Authority. You could just live in Winnebago or Boone County. But we do have a Section 3 program where we do a needs assessment with you for employment, finding out what your skills are, your knowledge is, and things like that. And when I have contractors or community members that are looking to fill a position and they reach out to me and they say, hey, Michaela, I need this or this, I pull from that database and refer you over to those employers. So me and Paul and I will drop our contact info into the chat. So if you're interested in that, you need assistance, whether it's resume, interview skills, or anything like that, feel free to reach out to myself at the Rockford Housing Authority. And that's what I'm here for as a Section 3 manager. And then we also have the different training programs that William and Dawson and stuff had talked about, and same with Jamie and John for those training opportunities specifically for the trades, if you're interested in that as well. So
I see one question here. It's our second shots encouraged. I'm assuming that's not about COVID vaccines, but I'll get this to John and Jamie talking about, I'm figuring they mean like if you don't get into the apprenticeship, your first application, can you go and apply again? Can you guys talk about that? Jamie, you want to go ahead? Oh, you're on mute, Jamie. There you go.
Yes, you can go and apply again. And one thing that we didn't mention, for all those applicants that they're willing to any of the trades, they're basically the benefits, they're pretty good and pretty even, but they can go on the website for Northwestern Illinois Building Trades. So that will be nwibt.org, and they can get more information of all 17 different trades that belongs to the building trades.
Thank you, Jamie. And John, before you chime in, I want to say I'm going to put my info in here, and I'm also going to put, in addition to the Building Trades Council here, I'm going to put a website that Project First Rate just launched a few months ago called Find Your Trade, and that is very similar to what Jamie's talking about, where it has information about all the different trades and apprenticeship programs in the area. But John, go ahead if you have any thoughts on second chances with apprenticeship programs.
Yeah, there's definitely second chances. As a matter of fact, it's encouraged that you don't stop after your first shot or your first chance, because as we mentioned earlier, construction is very dependent on the economy. It's very dependent on the seasons of the year. And so you can't just say, well, I tried once, didn't get hired, I'm going to just throw in the towel. The economy, as everybody knows, goes up and down. If we have a hard freeze winter, construction almost comes to a stop. And if we have torrential rains, construction almost comes to a stop. So you really count the times that are going on. And as I discussed earlier with how many participants are taken in each class every year for the different trade unions, it is a competitive market, but do not give up. And I know I'm looking at 4 of us that have very similar backgrounds on not giving up, and we're all sitting here in construction together now. So that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I think we can go ahead and, unless Michaela, if you have any last question, go ahead and wrap this up. And a huge thank you again to all of our panelists. Thank you. I thought it was an awesome discussion on every kind of section we did. So thank you guys very, very much. I really appreciate it. Now we do have for the attendees, we are doing some giveaways. We've got some Visa gift cards and a $100 gift card to good old Nicholson Hardware that we're giving away. That one is courtesy of NIBCA, which is our Building Contractor Association. They contributed to do a giveaway for our attendees as well. So I think Michaela, go ahead and draw 4 names, and we'll just do the first 2 will be the $25, the third will be the $50, and then the 4th one will be that grand prize of the $100 to Nicholson.
So the
And,
first one, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and to the attendees who are on here, we have all of you have your phone number and your email address. So that's how we will get in contact with you to get your address to make sure we can get this delivered to the right person and all that kind of good stuff. So.
All right, so the first $25 gift card is, or Visa gift card is Jalea Aldridge.
All right. Congrats, Julia.
The
Hey,
next
there you go.
one is a $25 gift card is Nina Allen. And then we have the $50, right?
Yep.
That's gonna be Thedford Jackson. And then we have the $100 one is going to be Gloria Pickett.
All right. Congratulations, Gloria, and everyone else. And thank you for jumping on and listening to the call and hearing from all of these great panelists that we had today. Again, a huge thanks to Michaela, huge thanks to RHA, all of our members, and all of the panelists from other partner organizations that participated. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you all very much for your time and sharing all of your industry knowledge with us today. We appreciate you. Thank you for attending.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye, guys.